Hello everyone, welcome. So today we are going to talk about defense mechanisms, specifically some immature defenses. So first let's start with dissociation. So dissociation is some extreme forms of defense mechanism which are not commonly seen in general population. Rather, they occurs in situations which are very severe to have to handle. So here the person have a temporary drastic change in personality or memory, consciousness or motor behavior to avoid emotional stress. And the person actually separates own self from one's own experience. He experiences the events that are actually happening to him as a third person rather than having a first person or first hand experience. So the person actually accepts the facts of the events, but he protects his own self from the full impact of the experience. A common example is a woman who was sexually abused as a child has two distinct personalities in adulthood. Maybe another example is although a person was not injured, the teenager who was actually driving the car has no memory of the accident because while he was driving, his girlfriend was killed. So the dying or death of his girlfriend is actually a very serious emotional blow, and this serious emotional blow caused a temporary change in his memory, and he actually forgot the event that his girlfriend was killed. Another example is a woman who was raped reports that it was as if she was floating on the ceiling watching it happen. So she is describing a third person experience rather than a first person experience. Another example is a child who was sexually abused recalls only the bad man who came to her in her dreams. This is kind of a third person experience, and extreme forms of dissociation can result in dissociative identity disorder or multiple personality disorder, though they are becoming increasingly common in clinical settings. And in one sentence we can tell dissociation is dissociating self from one's own experience. Next important defense mechanism is fixation, which is actually not very common, though this is actually partially remaining at a more childish level of development. And this common example is adults who are fixing on video games. Identification or introjection is a very important defense mechanism seen in many people. And in identification or introjection, features of external world or persons are taken and made part of the self. So this is opposite of projection. Here, a person's behavior is unconsciously patterned after that of someone more powerful. It can be either positive, either negative. And a common example is a man who was physically abused as a child abuses his own child, so he's identifying himself with the abuser. A man who was terrorized by his gym teacher as a child becomes a punitive critical gym teacher. So the punitive critical gym teacher or his gym teacher was a person who was more powerful, and this man is patterning unconsciously the behavior of this powerful person to himself. So he's taking the actions or taking the attitudes of the more powerful person into himself and doing the same things. So he's identifying himself with the aggressor. There are some common examples like a resident dresses and acts like attentive physician who is more powerful. This is a positive way. A teenager adopts the styles and mannerisms of a rock star. Okay. So introjection is why children act like their parents. Someone might say, I always saw that I would treat my children differently. Yet there, I was saying the same things to my children that my mother always used to say to me. So this is kind of common thing. Most of us actually experience this. Identification or introjection may be associated with child abuse. And in one sentence we can tell the outside becomes inside. Next is very important, isolation of affect. So affect means feelings or emotions. So here we actually separate the effect or isolate the feelings from ideas and events or simply facts. So here a person accepts the reality, but he does not have the expected emotional response to that reality. So here we actually separating an idea from the effect that accompanies it. A common example is a terminally ill patient does not show any emotion when discussing his illness with others. So here his illness is a stress. This illness is a fact also. So he is actually accepting the fact that he is ill, but he is not accepting the emotions which is associated with the illness or terminal illness. Another common example is without showing any emotion, woman tells her family the result of tests that indicate her lung cancer has metastasized. Same, she is taking the event that her lung cancer has metastasized, which is a very stressful event, but which is also a fact. She is only taking the fact that the lung cancer has metastasized, but she is not showing any emotions which are associated with this fact. There are some other examples. Those are associated with obsessive compulsive personality disorder. So in one sentence we can tell isolation of affect is facts without feeling. We just take the fact, doesn't feel anything. Passive aggression is also a common defense mechanism seen in most of the people. Here some people express negativity and perform below what is expected as an indirect show of opposition, which is actually unconscious opposition. And a common example is a disgruntled employee is repeatedly late to work. Maybe a student agrees to share class notes but goes home without sharing them. A physician ignores and does not answer the direct questions of a patient whom he finds annoying. So this is kind of a indirect show of opposition or indirect show that I don't like you, and that's why I'm not answering the question. But all of these occurs in your unconscious mind, not in the conscious mind. So here the feelings of hostility are unconscious, and the person using the defense is generally unaware of them. And this is often used by the people with borderline personality disorder and also young children. So here in one sentence, passive non-performance after promise, simply it's passive aggression. Another very important defense mechanism is projection, which is actually the opposite of introjection. Introjection was taking what is of somebody else and actually putting it onto yourself. And projection is taking on what is in you and projecting the feeling or ideas into someone else. So here you attribute, or someone attributes, an unacceptable internal impulse to an external source. So this is very important to know. Unacceptable own impulse or feelings are attributed to others. So you are the projector, so you are projecting your feelings to someone else, and you are telling that this person feels like that, but actually you are really feeling like that. So a common example is a man who wants another woman thinks his wife is cheating on him, or a man who with unconscious homosexual impulses begin to believe that a male colleague is attracted to him. So these two men are actually projecting their feelings into someone else. A girl talks about her doll as having certain feelings, but actually those feelings are really of the girls. A physician believes that the nursing staff is uncomfortable talking to him, but in fact he is uncomfortable talking with him. Projection is commonly associated with paranoid syndrome, and in one sentence we can tell seeing the inside in the outside is projection. Seeing the inside in the outside, projecting oneself to others. Another important defense mechanism is rationalization. So here someone tries to proclaim logical reasons for actions usually performed for other reasons, and the main reason is to avoid self-blame. So the explanations given are seemingly reasonable, but actually those are not the real reasons. They are just the reasons, but not the real reasons. And people do that to actually to relieve the unacceptable or irrational feelings. So they distort their own perception, so negative outcome seems reasonable to feel good about it. So common example is someone who has gotten fired recently claims that the job was not important anyway. So he just it's a bad feeling, or it's a very bad feeling to be fired, to get fired. It's bad stuff. But he is actually covering up this bad feeling, saying that it was not a good job or it was not worthy. So he was actually covering up his emotions, or avoiding self-blame. A student who fails the final exam says it was not an important course. A man who loses an arm in accident says the loss of his arm was good because it kept him from getting in trouble with the law. So what a silly explanation. Another one. Yes, I believe killing is wrong, but I killed him because he really deserved it. So you are actually putting up some reasons for your actions which are not actually logical. A young single woman tells herself that engaging in oral sex with a married man is not the same thing as having sexual relationship with him. So she's actually trying to cover it up. So here we should look for strings of reason. This is not a reason action. The action itself is not a reason action, but a search for reasons to allow an unacceptable action already selected. So here we use it to relieve guilt and shame. So again, in a one sentence, you can tell rationalization is something why the unacceptable is okay in this specific instance. So that's all from me today. Thank you for watching my video.